Our next prepared presenter, Francine Juhlin. It's a manual presentation from Pathways underneath Dynamic Leadership. Now, I do need to mention that our guest, Tom, Dynamic Tom, he had to leave. He put it in chat. There was a situation he had to take care of. So we can still talk about being dynamic and dynamic leadership. Level 1, Intro to Vocal Variety and Body Language. 5 to 7 minute presentation. Speech title, Why My Inner Child Rocks. Francine has launched a new podcast called Parents Talk as a companion to her Confidence Club for Kids. Throughout her personal growth journey, Francine has learned to allow her inner child to lead the way. Princess Francie has taken Francine on quite a wild ride. Francine will give us a brief overview in her speech titled, My Inner Child Rocks.
Breaking news. A little girl was lost in the Wisconsin woods. We're going to talk to some people at the resort. I saw her. She was the apple of her father's eyes. He wanted her to go on the tallest horse. And she said, yes, yes, Daddy, I want to. And then I saw them coming back down that hill. She came scooping down and around like she was sliding into home plate. Her father ran down the hill and picked her up. And he said, Oy vey, because you see, her mouth was caked with dirt and blood was dripping down. He thought she lost all her teeth, but she didn't. And now, to the next person who saw her learn how to swim. I saw her. He picked her up and he threw her in the lake. We were ready to go call the police, thinking he was trying to drown his child. But then she bounced up and she laughed with glee. No child was lost during this vacation. Princess Francie, or my inner child, was the princess of Daddy's eyes. And I didn't really get lost, but I lost that Francie feeling on that vacation. That princess who was Daddy's little girl, that little carefree child who bobbed up in the water with glee. That was our last family vacation ever, because shortly after that, my parents got divorced. And then I was no longer Francie, I was Fran. I was the overweight, awkward little girl. Did I say awkward? Because I was very awkward. Because, and this is a key point here, so listen, I remembered what my aunts told me. They used to tell me, you'd be such a cute little girl if you just lose some weight. Be careful, parents, because your children will remember your words for more than 50 years. Now, Francie, because of this, never fit in anywhere. As a child, did I tell you I was awkward? I didn't fit in. No matter how hard I tried, no matter everything I tried to do, well, I'll say that it was really to my benefit. And the one thing that I really want to thank my parents for, they let me try new things. My mom let me try new things. I did the band and I did the dancing and I did the Girl Scouts and I did and I did and I did and I did. But I never fit in because remember, I was fat and awkward. And that brought me to the Navy. I had no anchor in life, and in the Navy, I found my anchor. But I still didn't find Francie. When it came time to retire, it was time to find me. I lost my identity when I retired, and I went on a journey. The journey to find myself, or Princess Francie, because it was finding Princess Francie that led me on the rest of the journey. Because you see, when I lost Princess Francie, when I became that awkward child, when I let life and societal programming squash my inner joy, I lost myself. So remember that children remember. Those words stayed with me for 50 years. Francie, my inner child, has led me to understand all my insecurities were just a result of this societal programming. Who tells a kid, you'd be pretty if you just lost some weight? Or, I wish you were more like your sister, or any other thing besides you're wonderful, you're great, you're fantastic, and life is wonderful with you. I had to reprogram my mind to be happy and confident and have happy and confident thoughts. Wouldn't it be great if we gave children the tools that they need to create these healthy thoughts in their youth so they don't have to be reprogrammed when they're adults? Check out my YouTube channel for Parents Talk, tips for parents to grow strong and confident kids today so we don't have to fix broken adults later. Back to you, Tom.
Marvelous. And this is from the lady that, well, the first time I met her in person was running around with a shovel and a poop scooper chasing the elephants. Think about that. Well, let's pass it over to some supportive feedback from Susan Schultz.
Thank you. Facilitators group 1 is going to be Linda, Vanessa, and Marjane. So first up, Linda, something she's done well, and perhaps a gift or a recommendation for improvement.
Thank you, Susan. Francine, I love the title of your speech. It's a great introduction. One thing I think you could do I liked your prop at the beginning that you were speaking into and your hand gestures. But the eye contact was a little bit off in my view. And the word awkward, you used it 3 or 4 times, but if you gave an example, I was awkward in the way you walked or the way you were speaking to others, whatever define awkward, that might connect the audience with your story a little bit better.
Thank you, Linda. Next up, Vanessa.
I really enjoyed Francine and brought back memories for me too. I think probably the age group and parenting of our parents. I really enjoyed it. I guess the only thing I wondered whether a couple of times when you could change the voice to be, the Princess Fanny and the other voices might have made a slight more impact. But I really thought it was great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Next up, Marjane.
Francine, I really enjoyed this. Great message. In the beginning, I was a little confusing to me when you were switching between the characters. I loved the use of the prop for the microphone, but maybe make it a little more distinct when you're moving from one character to the other, or different voice or a different just characteristic. But other than that, I loved it. And once you got going, it it was very touching. So I loved it.
Thank you. Round 2 of our feedback, Melanie, Koki, and Sue Lighthoff. So starting up, Melanie.
Thanks, Francine, for that powerful, impactful message with a good call to action. I liked some of the language that you used, like the sliding down to home plate and the popping up in the water with glee, because that really added some interest and something to smile about. For maybe to add to next time, I thought the thing that you could maybe add is little props that maybe adds some lightness and some humor, like the tiara for the princess, and maybe a characteristic for your aunt or your uncle. Thanks, Francine.
Perfect. Thank you. And there she is right at the ready. Next up, Koki.
Thank you for the speech, Francine. And I think one thing that you are generally good at it is vocal variety, and the speech objective was vocal variety. And I think you had a reasonable vocal variety, and the subject matter was interesting too. Being a kid to fit it in, sometimes that's a challenge. And of course, you had some tough time, from starting out a really good story and then going through the parents' divorce and going through the overweight. Yeah, that's tough for the children. And I can imagine that what happened with the parents can affect your overweight and meant, the awkwardness too. So couldn't be just fit it in because you are different from other kids. But, it was a good speech, and I don't see you overweight at all. So you must have overcome that too. Thank you.
Great. And to wrap it up is Sue Lighthoff.
Francine, or Princess Franny, I am so glad that you've learned to embrace your awkwardness and Princess Franny. So I appreciate that. Everything, pretty much everybody's already said it. The only thing I would say is your background was a little bit messy, and maybe you could have used a blurred background. Other than that, great speech.
Thank you, everybody, for your thoughtful comments. You still have the opportunity to write a chat if you were not part of this feedback group. And I'd like to thank everybody for being next in line and being at the ready by having the microphone off and not having to wait for that. Good job, everybody. Back to you, Tom.
Marvelous. Thank you, Susan.